It's a Final Word with Adam Collins, and today with me I have on the show Zimbabwean veteran batsman Sikandar Raza, and what a perfect time to have you on the show because you're in Townsville, having just arrived ahead of the 3 one-day series against Australia, and you've been in tremendous form throughout the course of 2022. Hello, welcome.
Thank you, Adam. Thanks for having me on the show.
I say this is the perfect time to get you on. What a role. 135 not out, and 117 not out against Bangladesh in a series win. And then the most recent one day you played against India, you rattled off another century, 115. Zimbabwe have qualified for the 2022 World Cup, so the T20 World Cup later this year. And now you're in Australia, which is wonderful preparation, I suppose, for that T20 tournament. Things are looking good for you right now and looking good, much better for Zimbabwean cricket.
Yeah, listen, I think the country will always be first for me. So yeah, things are looking good for Zimbabwe. We've managed to achieve a few results that we have never managed to achieve in the past. A T20 win against Bangladesh, we have never done that, so that's a plus. Then to win a series against Bangladesh ODI after a long time, not only that, to beat them after 19 ODI losses is also a great. Also, it was great to put those streak to halt, and then, like you said, most importantly, we qualified for the World Cup after missing the last one. So yeah, listen, there's a lot of good things that's happening with Zimbabwe cricket and to the players. So it's nice to be part of the Zimbabwe cricket at the moment.
You've got a great story, and we'll go into that in a long international career. 36 years of age, you've been doing this for quite a while. But I mean, to hit this kind of peak form, I mentioned 3 one-day hundreds in your last 7 innings. It must feel good that you really are at the peak of your powers at the moment, heading into a World Cup year.
Yeah, it's nice. But for me, it's a game that's gone. What I try and take away from that game is the lessons that worked and the lesson that didn't work, but try and go into the next game with, of course, you're starting again, you're back on zero, your confidence, your lessons will help you, but your runs will not. So yeah, listen, it's been nice getting a few runs, getting a few wickets, putting some performances, most importantly winning some games, something that we didn't do very often in the past. So as a whole, Adam, yeah, it's nice.
And being in Australia, I mean, it's the first time Zimbabwe's been there for a long time. You've got to go back to, I think it's 2003-04 when they last toured. In your career, I had a look at this. You've played 6 one-day series against Bangladesh, 6 against Afghanistan, 4 against India, never against England, 1 against South Africa, and 1 one-day international against Australia way back in 2014 at home. And there's a similar pattern in your Test cricket. Across 9 years, you've played 6 matches against Bangladesh, a couple against Afghanistan recently, never against England or Australia. I mean, inside that group, the fact that you've been invited to play in Australia in this particular series coming up, starting on Sunday, it must feel like a significant moment.
It doesn't. I think it's something that should be happening a lot often. Australia being one of the big boys of the world cricket, I think I always say that when you want to test yourself how far you are from the world best, it's always nice to play against the world's best. So, I hope things change. I hope now the FTP's out. I haven't seen the fixture yet, but I really do hope that Zimbabwe, not just myself, because, the career will be over at some point anyway. So not just for myself, but I like to see the big boys play Zimbabwe a lot often because it would help us to grow cricket. It will make cricket a lot more competitive. It will also allow us to rub shoulders with the boys, learn the lessons, grow as a cricketer. Maybe, just learn some valuable lessons that you ended up doing well against these boys, have the opportunity to play in different franchise tournaments. Just basically as a cricket as a whole, just get better. But unfortunately, like you said, I've never played against these boys a lot. Well, some of them never and some of them very few. So
yeah.
It is not a big moment. It shouldn't be a big moment. A big moment should be, playing the World Cup final, because that maybe doesn't happen too often for Zimbabwe, or making into the semis and things like that. For me, that would be a big moment. But does it feel like a big moment? It doesn't, and it shouldn't, because I honestly feel it should happen more, man. Just for the betterment of cricket. It should happen often. That's all I would say for now.
Yeah, I completely share that view. You're right. It shouldn't be a big moment. I suppose it's more from where we're seeing it that Zimbabwe have been treated quite poorly by Cricket Australia historically in terms of tours that would have otherwise gone ahead but have been cancelled and not invited so often. I mean, the fact that you've got your coach Dave Houghton with you, who has been to Australia historically, and there was a pretty good, I wouldn't say a deeply embedded rivalry, but there are landmark moments. The 1983 World Cup game, got to go back a long time, but people remember that. 2008 when Zimbabwe beat Australia at the T20 World Cup. That much loved 1994-95 quadrangular series that Zimbabwe were part of across a long Australian summer, and other international tournaments where they've played. So you're right, it shouldn't be a big deal, but it has been sort of a long time between drinks, and the very fact that Zimbabwe pushed so hard for this series to take place after it had been postponed through COVID, I think significant as well. Like, you know, they weren't going to allow this to be punted off. Your board, your administrators said, no, we're going to be for this one.
Yeah, it's nice, you know. I'm glad it happened. Adam, listen, I don't understand the politics of cricket, so I'm not going to say that Cricket Australia treated us poorly. I hope they did. For various reasons, this fixture has never taken place, and maybe they did try, and maybe because they're generally so busy that they couldn't find time, and they're always playing against the other nations, the bigger nations, as you say. You also got to put the health and fitness of players as well. Sometimes too much cricket is not good for them, but there's a big pool of players for Australia anyway. So I think if they wanted, they could have, chop and change and could have happened. So I'm going to give them a benefit of the doubt. And I genuinely hope that the Cricket Zimbabwe or players wasn't treated badly by Cricket Australia. So now that we're here, well done to Zimbabwe Cricket for pursuing with this fixture and saying, listen, it's been postponed a couple of times. We understand that it was COVID and you had because we wanted to reschedule. You guys were busy because you're generally busy, but listen, let's find a window where we can make this happen, even if it's a short time. And they managed to make it happen. So kudos to Zimbabwe Cricket for making it happen. And thanks to Cricket Australia for accepting that invitation. And we're here now.
No, I mentioned it'll be the first of 2 trips that you actually make to Australia this year because you're in the World Cup later this year. That felt significant. I know that you were expected to win that tournament and did against Netherlands. You took 4 wickets in the final to make sure of that. It'll be Zimbabwe's first World Cup since 2016, and a lot of bad stuff's gone down since then. And of course, you weren't even permitted to qualify for the last T20 World Cup because Zimbabwe were not playing international cricket then because the ICC had that temporary ban on that. I mean, it's been quite the journey back to the top table, and it's all happened during your career.
Yeah, listen, when you say that, is there anything that hasn't happened during your career, anything that'll phase you? I can easily raise my hand and says, no, I think I've seen it all. I've seen the suspension, the ban, the personal stuff, and, not being able to qualify. Then one of the tournaments, we lost by 2 runs to UAE in a rain-affected match and didn't get to the World Cup. And when I genuinely feel that we played the best cricket of that tournament, but anyways, it is what it is. So to finally be here, to have that, listen, you don't know if the next World Cup, if I'll be there or the fitness of the body and things like that. So, to have another World Cup under my CV, if Allah wills it and I stay healthy and fit for this one, then yeah, listen, it feels nice, Adam, to be able to have one more World Cup under my CV, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I suppose we'll come back to the devastation of 2018 in a bit. I mean, also your health. There were stories and reports last year that for a time you feared you had quite an unusual cancer in your arm, which thankfully isn't the case. But I mean, it's one of a number of times that you might have thought your career was on the line and you've had to kind of bounce back from adversity. Is that how you feel as well, that there have been these friction points for you where it could have gone either way?
I think there is a similarity. A lot of things happen in my career and you be like, all right, but then you say, all right, my back's against the wall. What do? I can just put my hands down and get knocked out, or you come out fighting and start throwing punches and see where it lands, and you might land one. And so there has been few instances in my career, and then of course the health scare as well. And the health scare, it was just lucky. All the prayers that I received from all around the world ended up doing the miracle, because we were in a tight spot. Yeah, listen, I don't want to go into too much detail, but let's just say, Adam, we were in a very tight spot where the surgeon ended up saying that, listen, the only thing we can help you with is to amputate your arm, because nothing else is going to work in the bone marrow. So we even got to that stage as well. So
wow,
to come out of that healthy, did the rehabs, fully fit, and to be able to back playing cricket. Career wasn't, to be honest with you, cricket wasn't on my mind back then. When you have those sort of scares, I think your family and your health comes first. you quickly move away from everything else because it's such a big thing. And the thought did come to my head eventually that, listen, if this goes down, then I think I might have already played my last game.
Yeah, well, I mean, if someone says that you might have a limb amputated, I'm sure it would sort of focus the mind away from cricket and to, as you say, to quality of life and all the rest of it. And yeah, everyone in the cricketing community is grateful it didn't go that way and you're back on the field. I mentioned at the start your story is a very unusual one, and it is. I mean, you're born in northeast Pakistan. You're not a prodigy. I mean, you're not sort of this kid who's coming through destined to play Test cricket for Pakistan or anything like that. You're desperate to be a fighter pilot. You get into the Air Force Academy. I read one profile about you that said that 60 people out of 60,000 got into that level, and you were one of them. But you failed an eye test in your third year, and your dream was scuppered. So, I mean, that was the path you were on. You were going to join the military. That was going to be your life. Cricket was nowhere near it.
Oh, 100%. I never thought about being a cricketer in the first place. And for me, it was always about being a fighter pilot. For me, it was always about the Air Force. I was fascinated by the planes, the fighter jets, and things like that. And then when that didn't happen, then I said, all right, I want to be a software engineer. And I took a different path, and I graduated, and that's it, Adam. Honestly, that is it.
But even that, right? So you go to Scotland, to study software engineering. You end up being, it's quite I suppose you often see it, don't you? Players go to Scotland, or those who play cricket go to Scotland, play a bit of semi-pro. You were doing that as a student before you even really considered playing cricket properly as a career. I mean, it's an unusual path. By that stage, most, I guess, guys who are going to do this in their early 20s are on some sort of conveyor belt towards professional cricket, whereas you were thinking more about academia and what you could achieve as a software engineer after the ability to stay in the military. The fact that you failed that eye test.
Yeah, that is true. I went there, and I totally went there as a student. Luckily, I was in a uni where my friends were playing cricket, and they invited me to play cricket. So I ended up playing, just not even semi-professionally, just as a hobby, is to kill time, to pass time in the summer. To be outdoors, I enjoy outdoor activities. And then before you know it, the same club that I was playing for had 2 good years, and they offered me my first semi-professional contract. And they said, yeah, why not? Stay with the club. And I graduated, and a couple other clubs jumped in and became a semi-pro and a pro there. And never even at that point, I never thought I'll go home and end up being a professional cricketer.
Right. Yeah, right. It must be a very different world sort of playing, in Scotland compared to what you moved to next. I mean, I suppose you're finishing the day and having a cold can of iron brew as opposed to anything else when playing in that part of the world. Excuse the cliche.
That's true.
I thought it might be, yeah. But then by that point, your family had moved to Zimbabwe, right? So this is where the Zimbabwe... was there any... Before that, had you had any family linked to Africa or anything like that? Or was it purely a case of you following your parents' career, which had taken them there, and in turn, you moved to that country after university?
No, it was purely a case of my father moving there for his career, and I and my rest of the family followed him. It wasn't an intention to go to Zimbabwe and try and hand a cricket, because if that was the case, then when I landed there in 2003, I should have started playing cricket back then, but I didn't. I left my family, I'd finished my A-levels, came to Zimbabwe, left for Scotland, did my graduation, came home in 2009. And that's when I said, listen, I want to try my hand at cricket. So it was never a cricketing move. It was always a move that my father moved there, so we all followed.
Right. So by this stage, you're about 24, and you're not playing professional cricket. You'd made your first class debut a few years earlier, but in terms of actually day-to-day cricket, I mean, you're not a citizen of Zimbabwe at that stage either. That's 2011. So, I mean, do you feel quite Zimbabwean? This is probably a slightly different question where I'm taking this, but given you've been there for a long time and given your family were there, do you feel sort of now quite Zimbabwean, like given that it has been quite a long journey?
To be honest with you, Adam, I felt that the moment I was given a debut cap, because if I wasn't one of them, why would they be invested in me?
Right.
So I felt Zimbabwean once they accepted us in the country, and I felt local Zimbabwean once they gave me a debut cap, if that makes sense to you, because the support, the love throughout the journey I had in cricket, even when I was playing domestic cricket, the support from the people, from the media, from Zimbabwe cricket was pushing me to get my citizenship early so that I can represent the country sooner.
Right.
But because of some laws, I had to wait for a bit. And then when I did my time that was required, Zimbabwe cricket was on their heels. They were quick to get my papers submitted in, got the citizenship. I think 7 or 8 days later, I was making my debut.
I read reports that you're quite involved in a local orphanage there where you live in Zimbabwe as well, and sort of given back to that community, and you sort of feel quite connected to the place that you now live.
Oh, 100%. So yeah, there's few charity projects we do. One of the bigger ones is the CTT that accommodates 800 orphans. So yeah, without going into too much details, yes,
sure.
I'm part of that project. We've built new classrooms. We have provided food for the orphans because it's just a daycare kind of where kids have access to breakfast and lunch only. Unfortunately, they have to walk 10 to 15 Ks because they don't live at the facility. It only accommodates them for breakfast, lunch, and education, the studies part of things.
Mm-hmm.
So they walk 12. I'll give you a story. They walk for 12 to 15 kilometers after lunch to go back to their houses. And they have no access to dinner. Most of those orphans have no access to dinner. So they'll remain hungry after lunch. And the next meal they could possibly have, or the next meal they actually have, is the breakfast the following day. But what people forget is when they had lunch, they have to walk 12 to 15 kilometers one way. They're going to sleep hungry. They're going to come back 12 to 15 kilometers to the orphanage. And then they're going to have access to food. So what we've tried to do now, we've tried to bring a lot of snacks for the kids so that they can put it in their pockets, in their school bags, go home eating and come back eating, so that, because we had instances where kids fainted because they had no energy. So they had to be carried to the orphanage. So we have done that. Then the facility had no water, drinking water. So we have done the solar borehole project, so that there's always water at the orphanage. So the water they have at the orphanage doesn't just is not just used by the orphanage and the kids. It actually extends to the community, so that people do not have to walk too far away to fetch water, and they can have water close by now. So you've done that at CDT. We have started growing vegetables so that CDT can be self-sufficient, so that the vegetables they grow can be used for the food they eat, and also can be sold to the community to raise some funds that will eventually come back to the orphanage. Because we've had more orphans coming to the orphanage now, we've built classrooms for the orphanage so that they also have access to education. Because I honestly believe education is one way where the orphans could lead to a better life, because you do not want to be in that orphanage for the rest of your life.
Mm.
And plus, if we can educate some of them, they can have a half decent life, which can come back to the orphanage and look after some of the kids as well when they start earning money because of the bond they have with the orphanage, or their brother and sister are still part of the orphanage. So we've done that as well. So yeah, these are the projects we have done at the orphanage. Apart from that, because we've built the classrooms, then challenge was stationery, like the pen, just the general stationery to write on, the books and things like that. So we bought that for the orphanage as well. So yeah, alhamdulillah, myself and the team that I have is very keen to remain part of the few charities that we're running. And that's just one of the few we are part of. I always say there'll always be few that nobody will find out. It will be done very discreetly by myself and the team. And of course, there'll be few charities that will post about and talk about and things like that. So CTT is one of them.
That's fantastic, inspirational stuff that you are giving so much back with your teammates there. I mean, who you started playing with nearly a decade ago, right? I mean, you made your international debut back in 2013, initially against Bangladesh. You're the 116th one-day international player for Zimbabwe, make a test debut in the same year. You get a World Cup under your belt pretty early on in the piece in 2015 in Australia and New Zealand. I think at one stage, did you captain Zimbabwe against India at one stage along the line there too as a younger player? That must have been an unusual experience, being thrown into captain.
No, I did captain. I captained Zimbabwe for a few series, and then I was asked to captain against India, which I did. Then I was asked to captain against Bangladesh for a series as well, which I did. So yes, I've been asked to captain, and yeah, I've done that.
Much is made of your sort of intensity when you're training and how you drive yourself. And I mean, it strikes me that would suit you to immediately playing a lot of cricket at the top levels straight away, and you did. I've heard about your net sessions where you have sort of like hockey balls pinged at you, short balls, in order to prepare you to walk in there. I mean, and all of the standards you set yourself with fitness and what you put into your body and all the rest of it. And I suppose your strong faith as well, I understand, is a big part of what helps you perform consistently at the top level, and meant that when you arrived, you were ready for it.
Yeah, listen, so the faith is what gets me going, and it has taken me, into a good mind frame. And so what I always say, that it's great to have faith. It's the most important part of my life, to have faith. But without doing the other things that's required to be able to perform in international cricket, you got to add those things into your faith. So you have faith, and I walk into the nets and I do all the right things that I have to do. Then I come out of the nets and do all the right things in my fitness that I have to do. Then I go home and do all the things that I have to do to make sure that I'm not eating anything that's going to basically take the whole everything. For example, I have a theory. So people say, what would you like for your cheat meals? And I say, why do I want to have a cheat meal? And they say, why, Sunday is your cheat day. I said, no, not mine. Because I've put my body through so much pain from Monday to Friday or Monday to Saturday. Why must I throw everything away in one day? I absolutely hate training. I do hate training. I put my body in a lot of pain when I'm training, and I'm getting pinged left, right, and center in the nets, come home with bruises and fractures and all that, just so that I can look forward to Sunday for a cheat meal. That's not me. So I say, for me, it's a routine, it's a habit, it's a discipline, and it doesn't need to know what day is it, because it's an everyday routine. So I try and train every day, which basically means that I try and do the fitness every day, which means I try and eat healthy every day.
Right.
Just like my faith that I practice every day and things like that. So, these things for me go hand in hand for as long as I'm a cricket player.
Might be contributing to why you're having such a well, at age 36, a lot of players are thinking about retirement, and you're having, I guess, the most productive, from a batting perspective anyway, the most productive part of your career so far. And you started well too. I mean, you go back and had a good opening to your career. I mean, there's personal success throughout 15, 16, 17. You have that series win against Sri Lanka, which is significant in 2017, the first in a long time. You're contributing with both the ball and the bat. You find yourself on the T20 circuit in Bangladesh, in Canada with the global T20. You're in the PSL, playing in Karachi in 2018-19 as well. And then I mentioned before, and you touched on it as well, there's that kind of that devastation of Zimbabwe not being able to qualify for the 2019 World Cup. That tournament played in Zimbabwe, missing out. And again, there were reports at the time, well, your comments at the time, you're player of the tournament, and you gave it to the ICC with both barrels about them restricting and making the game smaller when they should be making the game bigger, before you basically shut yourself away for a number of days because you were just so gutted that you wouldn't be playing at the World Cup. Have you had sort of a chance to sort of reflect upon how tough those days were?
100%. So when we were playing this qualifiers, Adam, this question was asked, and it's true. That qualifier never went away from us. It remained in our memories. It still remains in our memories. And we were playing this qualifiers. That fear, that doubt was always there. Is Zimbabwe or us as players going to feel the same thing again? Once you've had a scare like that, I don't think so. It's very easy, or never mind that. I don't think so. It ever leaves you, such a big scare like that. So, the fear of that thing happening in this qualifier was always there for especially for the senior guys. I remember myself and Craig will be sitting having a coffee, and we'll be like, mate, we just got to make sure somehow that what happened back then never happens again to this country. And we've had these conversations before as well. And alhamdulillah, to see us winning that and qualifying for that World Cup, and hopefully that's the start of us never missing any other World Cups for the next generation and things like that. So yeah, listen, that World Cup qualifier never left us, Adam.
And it was an emblem of a really rugged time for the team, and administratively as well. The Mugabe regime ends in 2017. I say you've been kind of a witness to history in many respects as far as the time you've lived in Zimbabwe, played in Zimbabwe. But I was over there in 2018 for the tri-series with Australia and Pakistan, and there was that wasn't long after the World Cup qualifier, and there was a sense that there might be some green shoots there because of the change of administration politically and all the rest of it. But it kind of goes the other way, because it's only another year down the track that, due to political interference, according to the ICC, that Zimbabwe cricket were left out altogether in 2019. Another moment, I suppose, Sikandar, when you might have thought your international career could be over. If that suspension from the ICC had have lasted 2 or 3 years, you probably wouldn't still be playing.
Oh yeah, listen. So the first thought that went in everybody's head was, okay, well, if we've been suspended from international cricket, what are we going to do? I mean, are we still, how are we going to how are we going to feed our families and earn our livelihood? So, but to be fair, one thing that people don't know, credit to Zimbabwe cricket, even though when we were suspended, Zimbabwe cricket never stopped our salary. It might have been delayed by a few days or so, but they supported us and they were very confident that this ban will be lifted. And I think we were banned for 6 months. But when it first happened, Adams, a lot of questions went through everyone's head.
Yeah, and I suppose that question about money, because that's been a factor before, right? Like senior players, you've been part of that, where having not always made every player available because of concerns around money, but again, it feels like post 2019, post that ban, and talking to some of the colleagues in the Zimbabwean media, that's back on the right track. That there isn't as much of a concern around the day-to-day running of Zimbabwean cricket anymore as there was maybe around that 17, 18, 19 period of volatility?
100%. So the gentleman who's the MD now has formed, Givmore Makoni has formed a very good partnership with, of course, Tuenda Mukalani, who's the chairman. So I think one of the strengths of Mr. Givmore would be that we have a very open and honest, we have an open door policy and an honest relation between the senior cricketers and the man himself. So every time we feel like something is not right, he actually encourages us to come and speak to him, because he has to make so many decisions every day. Sometimes things skip. Listen, we all human. Sometimes we forget things and things like that. So we actually go to him and says, Chief, we think XYZ can be done, and he gets it done for us. And part of the reasons why Zimbabwe cricket is doing well is because I feel like the players are mentally relaxed a lot more. Our day-to-day runnings are much better. Our salaries are paid on time. Our match fees comes on time. And if there is a bit of a delay, there's always a communication from the MD saying, gentlemen, we are experiencing a delay because of XYZ, but this delay will last for this many weeks, so you plan your life accordingly. So I think the relationship that he has with the players has certainly given us strength to do well on the park as well, because that's one worry we don't have to worry about.
And I suppose in a way, COVID might have been a bit of a circuit breaker as well, just looking at it from a long way away, 10,000 miles away kind of thing. But, you go through that really tough period at the back of 2019 and obviously no cricket in the first part of 2020 due to what was going on through the pandemic. And you come out the other side of it and, you're back playing Test cricket again. You have a really successful performance with the ball against Sri Lanka, taking 7 wickets there. You perform admirably against Afghanistan last year, making 2 scores in a Test victory, Test win there. The Future Tours program, you're meant to play 23 Test matches in the next cycle, which is 10 more than the previous cycle. I mean, the World Cup Super League that you're in at the moment, the fact that you're in Australia, World Cup qualifier was successful this year. Excuse the cliche, but it feels like there are some green shoots, like legitimate green shoots for Zimbabwean cricket following that pandemic.
Listen, 100%. And whoever has made that effort to basically push our case for more Test cricket and for more matches as well is very good. What I do know, Adam, even if you don't get to play 20, I hope it doesn't happen, but even if you don't get to play those 23 Test matches, but what I do know that the Test match that we miss out on will be turned into an ODI or a T20 game. So Zimbabwe will have those 109 matches in the next FTP. If not, we'll have probably more. If we miss out on something, we'll definitely gain something else, because not every country is comfortable playing Test cricket because they can't. Maybe it's too expensive. It's not just for Zimbabwe. For example, Ireland is one of us as well. I mean, if they may find it very hard or expensive to host us, so that series could be converted into a white ball series, and that just means more. As long as Zimbabwe is getting games and they're playing more games, that's all we need, and that's what's required for the growth of a cricketer and for growth of the sport in Zimbabwe as well.
And I suppose the series you're about to start this weekend as well, right? Playing against a team that have won so many World Cups in Australia. I mean, they're the current T20 World Cup holder. I know it's 50 over cricket that you're playing them in, but what that will do for the younger players in your group, especially that development step that you get from playing against the best.
So put it this way, this is my second time. Well, this is my first time playing Australia in Australia, and my second time being in Australia. So believe it or not, Adam, some of the lessons we take from playing against these boys home and away is just priceless. You know, you're testing yourself against the world's best, and to lessons that you'll pick up will help you when you go back home and play some of the other nations. So what it did for me, that it kind of put my career on the path where I could just always judge myself saying, this is how far I am from the world best. This is what I need to do to get there. I remember having this conversation with the Aussies with the last time they were here. They were very kind to have a conversation with us, and just listening to them and things like that, and says, all right, this is what you do. This is what needs to be done. You just get a good sense. And sometimes that's all you need. All you need sometimes is a direction. So, and once you find the right direction, then you just keep working hard and you get to your destination eventually.
And who knows, if you have another day out like you did last week against India and you post a big score, I mean, what would it mean to you if you were to win one of, or indeed win the series, but let's just deal with winning. If you take one of these 3 one-dayers, what it will do for the confidence for that team is, you know, you're coming back there later in the year for T20 World Cup fare and all the other one-day series you've got coming up against bigger nations in that FTP.
100%. So because I was saying that to judge yourself how good you are or how far you are, you have to play the world best. And if you can manage to win a game against the world's best, I know you said they're the current T20 World Cup holders, but they're still one of the top 2 or top 3 ODI nations as well. So they're a powerhouse. And Aussie's going with a full strength as well. So and it's exciting because you're going to be facing a full strength Aussie squad, and you'll know how far you are from being the world best. So those are the lessons that we'll pick up, and we'll go home and says, guys, this is a true reflection where we at. And if you can win the game, then you know that we can not just compete, but actually win games against the top countries. And what that'll do to us when we come back for the World Cup, it will give us enough confidence to say, guys, you know what? We're going to have to, if we can do XYZ against Australia, guys, we back ourselves to win this group and go to the main round of the World Cup.
Fantastic. Sikandar Raza, you're an engaging, captivating character in global cricket. Good luck this week. Good luck for the next 6 months or so with the World Cup coming up in October and November, and we'll be following it very closely. Thanks for joining The Final Word.
Thank you very much, Adam. It was lovely to be on your show. Final word would be just pray for us, for myself, and for the team that we do well against Australia.
We sure will.